Welcome to Tips in 10. I'm Bradley Emerson. The last time we met, I talked about the role diagnosis. Now, when you go to a doctor, you go through a diagnosis process. What do? They want to find out what causes the illness or the imbalance in your health. Now, similarly, you need to also do the diagnosis to understand what will impact your performance in a particular role. But you don't stop to diagnose. The reason being, you are given a prescription. You are given a job description, the JD, and you read that and you define yourself within that. But delivering that job description is the stuff that I talked to you about, the skills, the knowledge, the attitude, that bit. And that comes from the diagnosis that you have to do yourself. No one will tell you, will probably tell you this is the skill they're looking for and that's what they hire. But the attitude, the knowledge, the interconnection with the people is something that you develop. So we said you have this thing of knowledge, skill, understanding of what you're going to do, the environment in which you're working which changes your behavior. And we said behavior is not what you're hired for. You're hired for performance. So what does make behavior performance? When does behavior become performance? See, a cook, a chef can behave like a chef. Or a cricketer or a batsman can behave like a batsman. But when do you judge his performance? You judge his performance when he produces results. A chef can be in the kitchen wearing his uniform, making a lot of noise, moving around in the kitchen, shouting at people. But that is not performance. He's behaving as a chef. Performance is when he brings the dish to the table and that looks good, smells good, and tastes good. It is only then he has performed his job as a chef. Similarly, in careers, we often behave. We don't understand what is it that I had to bring to the table that looks good, feels good, and delivers the results as good. So it moves away, that's what converts behavior to performance, that you are delivering the expectations. You're delivering what we call the objectives. Now these are set for you in your JD or beginning of the year performance meetings. It is set for you. And then you have goals as well, which are long term. But remember, we often focus only on organizational objectives and organizational goals. But you have, as a human being, as an educated professional, your personal goals and personal objectives. But it gets diluted. And if it doesn't get synced together, it doesn't balance and lie on each other, then you are living a lie. You work under stress. You are not doing something that you're passionate about. You're not doing something that is aligned to your own personal objectives. So when you set the objectives for the company, take time to see, does it align with my objectives? You often end up doing the wrong job in the wrong company. And then we end up stressed out. And then they don't live the purpose that we have put into that company. So when the company's objectives are given, when the company goals are set for the next 3 to 5 years, take time to understand, how does it match with my goals? How does it match with my objectives for the next 12 months? Do you have one? What is your objective? Just wake up, go to work, come back, go to sleep. I wonder whether you have seen how buffaloes wake up. They know the routine. When they are kicked out off the ground, they will just walk in a herd. They know what is the mud hole that they have to go and sit. Whether the crow sits on him, pecks on him, doesn't matter. They will walk the same speed to the same mud hole, sit the same routine of hours that they normally sit, and they do what they do, and they are brought back home. Is that the routine? Objectiveless, goalless life? Company gives you a goal and you work like a buffalo trying to deliver the objectives. What are your objectives? What are your purposes? What is your 3-year goal? And how does that align to what you're doing? It's only when you align your personal objectives to the company's objectives, your personal goals to the company's goals, that you bring out that true spirit that I talked about. It comes from within. You give life to the role that you're working only when you find your personal objectives are aligned to your company's objectives. Otherwise, you are stressed out. It's like getting a fish to run. It's not your quota. It is not there for you. You have to be in water, not on land. But then we say, well, this is what the job I can find. But then you will not be performing. You will not be bringing life to the role. So you've got to have the purpose for yourself in working in a company. Why am I here? Company will tell you why you are there. You ask why you are here. What is my 12 months objectives personally, in terms of my education, in terms of my skill development, in terms of my interpersonal relationships? What is it that I want to achieve? Leave aside your KPIs. You have to do it anyway. But how do you do it will depend on your personal objectives, your skill set, your understanding of the role, your knowledge, your ability to drive people. That's what drives you. So you will have your personal objectives recognized, aligned in some way. Sometimes you always find, or sometimes you find, that your long-term goals may not align with the long-term goals of the company, which is fine. Because as you go along, you start tweaking your goals, because it's a long view. But on the short span, when you look at the objectives for the year, at least 30, 40, 50% of your personal objectives need to align with the company's objectives. It is only then you give life. You cannot get the performance of a actor, of a stage player, if he is not aligned. If his personal objective is not to make an Oscar-winning performance, then he's not going to bring it out in the entire role. So when does behavior become performance? It's only when individually and for the business you have understood what the objectives are, how closely aligned they are, and also when you have the company goals understood and your personal goals understood, and then how do you align that? Let me give you an example. If you are in, let's say, in media, and you are supposed to achieve X percentage of media exposure over the year, that's your objective. How do I relate it to your personal objective? You need to build up relationships. If you are a media person, your power is in the network that you have. So you will have an objective. Leave aside the KPI that company has given you, let's say 10 million of print media coverage, AVE. Leave that aside. But if you are in media, your personal objective is to enhance your network. If you are already having a network with a certain level of people, your objective for this year will be to, should I have a network with a higher level of people in the same company? That is what your personal objectives are. When that objective of enhancing my network aligns with increasing the exposure, the media exposure, then you give your heart out. So remember, a role needs to be diagnosed to understand what impacts my performance. That's what a doctor does. When you are sick, you go to the doctor. Doctor will go through your symptoms and try to diagnose what is causing your ill health. Similarly, if you want to perform, you got to diagnose what is that you need to have that will cause the performance, that will take you away from behavior to the next level, because you are rewarded for performance. Self-recognition comes from performance. Behavior will get noticed and sidelined. So this is why we find people often coming and saying, I have had 8 years of experience. I have worked like a dog. I've heard this. You work like a dog, you can only be treated like a dog. So that is because you don't understand the difference between you have been behaving most of your career than performing. You have behaving on a role than bringing the performance, giving life to the role. And that is why we find the situation where you stagnate because you're not performing. So here's it. Understand your role, diagnose it. Remember, most of the time we are behaving in a role and not performing the role. So you've got to transform that behavior to performance. When does behavior become performance? It is only when you have objectives and goals set, not only for the company, but for yourself. So transforming behavior to performance comes from having clear objectives aligned, clear goals aligned, and working towards it every day. See you soon. Thank you very much.